All right, guys. Questions over the homework before we get started? Questions over any of the homework assignments? We good so far? Yes? Okay. What we're doing today is 2.4. 2.4. So we're going over two more, well, we've already gone over these equations of parabolas. We're just looking at them in a different context. Because what we're going to be given is the equation of the parabola in one of two forms, either vertex form or x-intercept form. So if it is vertex form, they're going to give us the vertex and a point on the parabola. And they want us to find the equation from a given point in the vertex. Or we're going to get x-intercept form. They're going to give us the x-intercept, p comma q, which can also be, in their actual form, p comma 0 and q comma 0 as an actual point, and a point on the parabola, and we want to find the equation based off the information that's given. Okay. So this is what they give us to start with, and we're going to find the equation. Excuse me. Let's look at the first one. First example, they tell us the vertex is the point 3,2, and it passes through the point 13,8. Now we need to figure out which one of the two equations we're going to be using, vertex form or x-intercept form. Well, what did they give us? The vertex. Since they gave us the vertex, we're going to use vertex form. Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Now the vertex is still the point h comma k. So that tells us the value of h is 3, the value of k is 2. All right. Questions on what we've done so far? So if we plug that in, it tells y is equal to, well, we don't know a, x minus h, so that'd be x minus 3 squared, plus 2. Questions on how we got to this equation? We good getting to this point here? Yes? What is the only thing we're missing? A. Now we did have a form for a with 232 in chapter 232 that a is equal to 1 over 4p and p is equal to 1 over 4a. But to find p, we would need the focus or directrix. Did they give us that? No, they just gave us a point. But what we do know about a point on a parabola is that if I plug 13 in for x, if we calculate it out, 13 minus 3, square it, multiply it by the value of a, and then add 2 to it, we should get 8. Because that's just how a point on a graph works. Because if I plug the x value in, the y value should come out. That's why they gave us a point. Is that I can plug that point in. 13 in for x, 8 in for y. To be able to find the value of a. Questions on this here? So let's find a. Well, 8 is equal to. So order operation says we need to do what's inside the parentheses first. 13 minus 3 is 10. 10 squared. 100. Now we're going to step this out one at a time. We're going to we're going to combine this step and the next one together on the next one. Because 10 squared is 100. So we have a times 100, which is what? Bless you. Plus 2. Really, we could have said a times 10 squared is 100a. We didn't necessarily need that in-between step. But I'm going to write it on the first one so that we kind of see it. What would we do next? We had minus 2 from both sides. So yes, we're going to minus 2 from 8, which would give us is equal to 100a. And last but not least, we would? No? 100. Because we're wanting to get variable by itself. So 100a divided by 100 is just a. 6 divided by 100, do you think it would reduce?
It'd be like point something. Bro, what is that noise? I'm about to go outside. Whatever it is. What's cake do? Leave him alone.
6 over 100 is 3 over 50.
That's what you do.
Almost. We ready for the last step? We plug a back in.
Okay, it should be 3 over 50.
It's like easier than the last one.
So do we feel good with this here?
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
What if I told you the rest of the lesson is essentially the exact same thing?
I'm not going to be a happy kid.
Questions on the first one? We ready for the second one? I do not know why this thing keeps not staying at the top of the page, but so we have the vertex is -5, 9 and passes through the point -7, -15. We're going to use vertex for them because they gave us the vertex. H and K.
-5.
H is -5, K is 9. So y equals a times x minus -5 squared. 3 right there, 2 plus 9.
When you take the
Well, our -5 is the same as +5. So we don't have to write -5. We can just write +5. Then we're going to plug -15 in for y and -7 in for x.
you could just pick, right?
So the point is x comma y. So the -7 has to go in for x, the -15 has to go in for y. And do y'all know the reason why x goes first? Yeah, why goes x, y, not yx?
Because it's in the
Yeah. That's really it. X comes first, yeah. We keep things in alphabetical order. Yeah. -7 plus 5 is? So what's the difference between 7 and 5? Which one's bigger, the negative or the positive? So it's -2. Yeah. Now we need to do -2 squared. Negative times a negative is a positive.
Okay, fella.
All right, guys.
Not everybody's.
Let's just verify with the calculator. -2 squared, yes? It is. The calculator does not see it as -2 squared. -2 times -2. It sees it as -2 times 2. You have to put parentheses around it. You are right. So -2 times -2 is +4. But if you don't put the parentheses around it, it sees it as -1 times 2 squared. It sees the negative and 2 as two separate things. We've got to put parentheses around it. If you're not sure if you need parentheses or not, might as well put them. Because if you put them and don't need them, it's not going to change anything. If you need them and don't put them, it'll give you the wrong answer. Questions on how we did this here? What would we do next? minus 9.
Thank you, baby.
So 4a equals negative.
Positive.
No, negative.
I know, negative minus, or,
You said a positive.
right, it's negative. I meant to
All right, guys. Last step is to,
five.
so a is so y is equal to negative 6 times x plus 5 squared plus 9. Questions on this here? Seven plus 5, yep. Yes. So I'm showing you this here because, again, sometimes we get an answer, we're not sure if we got the right one, yes? So if this is the equation, I plug negative 7 in for x, the y value should be what? Negative 13. That's the point they told us, yes? So if I take our equation, plug it back in,
That's in negative 15.
negative 15, yes. That's still the point, yes? So that's the correct equation. We just plug the point back in. Does it give us the correct y value out? If it does, then it's the right equation. If not,
You thought you were wrong for a second.
yeah. Scared me for a second. But, yes. Questions on this here? Yep. Now is when we get comfortable with it, and then it changes, yes? So it tells us what the x-intercepts are, negative 7 and negative 3, and it passes through this point. So are we going to use vertex form? No. What is the other one we had? Was x-intercept. So y equals a times x minus p times x minus q, where p and q are the x-intercepts. So what are our x-intercepts?
What is that? X minus
P times x minus q.
oh, that's Q.
So P is so we're just using the other form, our x-intercept form. Y equals a times x minus p times x minus q. Yes, sir. Yeah. P and q are our x-intercepts. So P is negative 7, Q is negative 3, yes? Could we have had P, have we have flipped P and Q and said P was negative 3 and Q is negative 7? Yeah, they're just the x-intercepts. It doesn't matter which one's which. I just need to pick one of those to be P and the other to be Q. We ready for the next step? So, y equals a times x minus negative 7. Yeah, so our negative 7, negative 7, and negative 3 become plus 7 and plus 3. Questions on this here? So we get how we got to this point, yes? Well, they gave us a point. So that still means if I plug negative 2 in for x, and this time we're plugging it into both x's because it showed up more than once, this should equal 0.05. I would say essentially, but it's really not. We are doing pretty much the exact same thing. It's just a different formula. Yes? All right. Parentheses first. Negative 2 plus 7 is 5. Negative 2 plus 3. We have a times 5 times 1. Does it matter what order I multiply this in? No. Multiplication, we can multiply any two or more things in any order. A times 5 is 5a times 1. Yeah, it's 5a. 5 times 1.
He said 1 times 8. That's what he said.
We can do that. 1 times A is 1A times 5 is 5A. That's the nice thing about multiplying 3 things. We get there.
Why are you so sassy?
Y'all coming at me.
All right, guys. Next step is by 0.01 or 1 over 100. We'll leave it as a fraction. And the last step is to plug it back in. Questions on any of this here? We feel good with this here. Now I can make it harder, quote unquote harder, but all that means is instead of -7, -3, we have -7.9 and -2.8. Instead of nice integers, we have decimals or radicals. Doesn't change anything. It's just the numbers are going to look different. They're going to be not nice numbers, quote unquote. But otherwise, nothing else changes. It's just we get decimals, fractions, which is just the same thing. Especially with the calculator, it's doing. So we get the -16, 0, -2, 0, and passes through the point -1872. Is this vertex form? But they didn't tell us x-intercepts, did they? They did and didn't, because x-intercepts where it crosses the x-axis. But the value of y at the x-axis is 0. So it's because we said we could be given the x-intercepts, but if we're given them, like the last one, they just gave us the number, p and q. Here they gave us the point, p, 0 and q, 0. So really all it's saying is that p is -16 and q is -2, or p is -2 and q is -16. They just gave it to us as a point. So we get y equals a times x minus -16 times x minus -2. But our negative negatives make a plus in both cases. And then we use our point. -1872. 72 is our y, -18 is our x. -18 plus 16 is -2. -18 plus 2, -16. Questions on this so far? When we multiply these three things together, we will get a. -2 times -16. Negative times a negative is a. So 2 times 16 is 32. Now we're going to both sides by 32. 72 over 32 is 9 over 4. Thank you. Yes. Questions on this so far? We'll look at two more and then we're done. One more of each. Vertex is negative 114 and passes through the point 635. Since it gave us the vertex, it is vertex form. So our H value is negative 1 and K is 14. But that negative 1, we can just rewrite it as plus 1. If the K value is negative, we can just say minus that value instead of plus a negative. What do we do next? $35 equals A times 6 plus 1, 7 squared. 49A plus 14. What would we do next? We need to subtract 14 from both sides, because that will give 49A by itself, because those would cancel. 35 minus 14 is 21. And last but not least, we would both sides by 49, telling us A is 3/7. Welcome. I mean, we could do that in the calculator. 21 over 49, it'll tell us it's 3/7. It'll do it for us. So y is equal to 3/7 times x plus 1 squared plus 14. H and K don't have to be integers. They could be fractions. They can be whatever we want. A, for the most part, from what we've seen, has been fractional. It could be a whole number. It doesn't have to be a fraction. It's worked out to be a fraction for all these here more than anything else. Questions on this here so far?
Oh, it's back to vertex.
Yep.
Great. We're trying to recruit Dusty. Way to go. What? At Westfield? They're playing, Colbert's playing them. Yeah, is it at Westfield? At Westfield. I know it's at Westfield. I'm asking if the game is at Westfield. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Hey, so, I'm Micah. We're trying to recruit Dusty. He said he's probably not going to come because it's his senior year. Anyway. We don't need Dusty. We got Blake.
Questions on this here? Let's look at one last one. X-intercepts are 9 and 1. It passes through 0, negative 18. So what's our P and Q? P is 9, Q is? So we get y is equal to a times x minus 9 times x minus 1. And lastly, we're going to plug 0 in for x, negative 18 in for y, and solve. Now, one of the nice things about having 0 for x is 0 minus 9 is negative 9. 0 minus negative 1 is negative 1. Well, negative 9 times negative 1 is 9 times a is 9a. And lastly, we would divide both sides by 9, telling us a is negative 2.
Is this the last one?
I believe so. All right, guys. Worksheet for homework. Also, this is the end of chapter 2. So we're finished with chapter 2. Monday will be a makeup day. Tuesday, I will give you the review sheet. You're going to have the whole class period to work on the review sheet. We'll go over that more on Tuesday. Wednesday, I will go over the review sheet with you. We'll go through the problems, answering questions. If you don't have questions over a certain problem set, I'll probably do one and then move on. Thursday is going to be the start of the test, and Friday will be the other half. I'm going to cut the test in half. So you'll take half of it on Thursday, the other half on Friday. And it's not so much that the test is super long. I think it's just going to take y'all most of the time, like today. Most of these problems was less actually solving. It took us a bit to just write all this. So I think that's going to be majority of it is just writing it out. But I'm going to give you 2 days to do it. And I will split it up, so it's not going to be you're going to get the test work half-half. I'm going to do half on Thursday, actually half, split it in 2. But that also means all of your assignments are due at the end of the day Friday for chapter 2. So 2-1, 2-2, 2-3-1, 2-3-2, and 2-4. 5 assignments. Well, that's it.